Hi, welcome to U.R.S.T, the ultimate retro shooter template. This guide will be about the enemy system. You will learn how to make a new enemy and customize its stats in just minutes. The enemies in U.R.S.T are driven by a lightweight but highly capable state machine. It is made to be identical to retro shooter games that use the build engine. However, they don't just blindly walk toward the player, they utilize 180-degree cone vision, line of sight raycasting, and built-in straafing logic to dodge and weave as they chase their target. The enemy system is designed to be as flexible as possible. Enemies are created using custom resources similar to the weapon system. This means that the enemy system is split into two parts. The logic, which handles the physics, navigation, and state machine. The stats, which handles the enemy data. You create new enemies by making a new resource file and an inherited scene from retro enemy scene, which will hold the resource file. Creating a new enemy in the ultimate retro shooter template is very easy. First, navigate to the folder where you want to create your enemy. Right-click and select Create New, and then click on Resource. Search for retro enemy resource, select it, name your enemy, and click Save. Once you create the new resource, a complete menu called Enemy Settings will open in the inspector on the right side of your screen. If it doesn't open automatically, simply click on the resource you just created to reveal the menu. First is the enemy name, which you can change at any time. Below that are the core stats, where you can fully adjust the enemy's health, damage output, movement speed, and vision range. Here in Combat Dynamics, you can determine if the enemy is immune to stun or weapon knockback. You can also configure the attack range, the cooldown duration between attacks, and the attack knockback. If you hover your mouse over any of these options, a helpful tooltip will appear with a full explanation. Range settings section defines how the enemy shoots. If the enemy does not use projectiles, you can turn this off and it will default to hit scan. If you wanted to use projectiles, toggle it on. You can also enable explosive projectiles. If you want the enemy to use projectiles, you must add the retro projectile scene into the projectile scene slot. Click Quick Load, search for retro projectile, and select it. Don't forget to assign the projectile's sprite or texture. Then modify the projectile speed and the projectile height. For instance, if the projectile is spawning at the enemy's feet, you can increase the height value so it correctly appears to shoot from their hands. Finally, adjust the weapon spread. The higher the number, the less accurate the enemy shots will be. In Loot and Cleanup section, choose which scene or item the enemy drops upon death. You can also toggle whether the enemy's corpse despawns. If checked, the body disappears after a short time. If unchecked, the corpse remains in the world. In the 8-directional idle sprite section, you can drag and drop your textures for the idle front, idle right, idle back, and the rest of the 8 directions. Once the idle sprites are set, do the exact same thing for the walk sprites in all directions. Next, add your textures for the attack sprite, pain sprite, and death sprite. You will also need to set the corpse sprite, which is the final static image shown after the enemy dies. In Gore Details, you can assign sprites for the blood particles that emit when the enemy is hit, as well as the blood floor decals that stain the ground when they are hurt or killed. Finally, assign sound effects for when the enemy spots the player, attacks, takes damage, and dies. After finishing all the resource stats, the next step is to create the actual enemy in the game world. Go to Scene, select New Inherited Scene, navigate to the Core folder, then Core Prefabs, and search for Retro Enemy. Click Retro Enemy to open a new scene where you can rename the main node to match your enemy. Next, drag the retro enemy resource we created earlier and drop it into the stats slot located under Enemy Settings. Also click on the Enemy Sprite node and assign the enemy sprite as a placeholder image. This helps you properly scale and position the collision shape. If the collision shape is locked, select it, go to Manage Object Properties, choose Make Sub-Resource Unique, and click OK. You can now freely modify the collision boundaries. Don't worry about leaving the placeholder image on the sprite node. When the game starts, it will automatically be overwritten by the textures you set up in your resource file. When everything looks good, press Ctrl S or go to Scene and select Save Scene. Save it in the same folder as your resource or wherever you prefer. And just like that, you have successfully created your first enemy. In the next video, we will talk about the ready interactive props that you can drop into your level.